Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye. So basically, we are going to do another video, a deep dive, and we're going to do King Arthur because that one keeps coming up, especially in visions and anything else that I have been picking up on. So when I see King Arthur, you just can't even know what to do with him. And when I see the sword and I see the stone and I see the movie and I see Archimedes and I see the owl and I see the totem and the total of the totem pole, I can't even see how hard a PE can be a test out for you because you can't even do it done. So that was the whole point of King Arthur, that you just couldn't even get it done. So as I see him in the 12th century, as he's showing me in mediumship, that he just couldn't do it done. And I do see the table, I do see the round table, I do see the swords, I do see the regalia, I do see all of it on an unbeknownst way that you just can't even do a do. You just couldn't even do a do. So when I see a do, I actually see the French word of a goodbye, of an exit out. So when I see and I he and I see and I he and I see and I he and I da, it literally means how they spoke was out to France. And when they went out to France, I see a metal table the way their stone was. Their stone was different on throwing it out, and it's showing me almost like a racketeering game when they throw stone at you. And when they throw stone at you, they literally is like throwing dirt. And then they write it out. And then it becomes a write in and a write out. And it's so dirty out in the streets that you just couldn't even do it. And so even then he's showing me there's magic writing that came through. It was set in stone in a way of a known, of a bone, of a loan, of a stone. Like it would set into your bones and you would ache. So when he said the sword is in the stone, and I actually see a sword through the stone, you just couldn't even do it. So they would get so nasty and agitated over everything that you just can't even blame them at that point, that they're physically injured to the highest point of a no return, that they went to nasty medieval interrogations of trying to get it out. And when I see this all come out to a comment out, it went down to one word where they said, don't even do it at all. But it must be done. So when I actually do this, I have to say, oh my God, I actually have to dig into the cards on that one. This is a bad one. So, right off the bat, I see the animal oracle and what it needs to do. So, when I actually see set in stone on how they wrote it, I do see purple, I do see stone fragment of a granite. I do see pyrite. I do see it's another stone. It's hard to get out. It starts like an L, a level, but you couldn't even just do it. That's how they used to talk in the court. So court was a song and dance. Court was a show. Court was a way of a do a done, to be a done, to a jester, to see how it would play out with a criminal. It was so nasty that you just couldn't even do it. So it really was derogatory what he's showing me in mediumship. But what would actually go? And I hear Knights Templar. Okay. So I see sea serpent. When I see sea serpent, I see the snake. I see the snake in the garden. I see the snake in the stone. I see don't step on snake. And I also see a go about. It really was a Revolutionary War. But when I see the crow in reverse, it is an omen gift. Omen gift. So when they couldn't say their sounds or their vowels or their consonants, they knew that there was something within them. So when I see the cheetah actually come in, it was a full force night, an NITE, which meant they would work magic at night, all forms of magic. I do see some forms of intoxication to get it out, but put into people to get it out. So when I see the peacock, it actually is a display of annoyance that would come through. And when I see the otter, it would flow through like the water and offer a stone, a payment. But when I see the cosmic egg, it was a halt stop to productivity throughout the day. And that is why it was heinous during medieval times. So when I see the bat, I actually see a lot going forward, and I also see a lot going to it. But it was a fly by night, which actually was a code, like a new thing that came out. He's showing me through the 1100s, through the 1200s, and someone of a Mary like, she's showing me blue dress. She's showing me white dress, and then I see green at her feet. So when I see the bat and a fly by night, it was a go through. And it's something I can only relate to, almost like a drone going through and seeing through. I do see that they had the ability to communicate with animals and that they could talk to the animals in a way intuitively so high they could understand it. It's a very lost art and a lost given art. So when I see the bear, I actually see all of it to the highest degree of none. The bear was the stalker. That was really almost a sheriff, but it was none. But the horse, there's still something in through that these videos about the gelding. And the gelding is something of a haunting that it was highly disturbing, even through a lot of visions throughout. And it's not the first time that I've heard about the gelding coming out. So when I see the panther in reverse, it was no hunting about when it actually came through, all the way up to prima noctra. So when you go up to prima noctra, it actually was first night. And first night was actually so heinous that you couldn't get it done. So it really was rights. When you get down to law and you actually get down to, they would have had something like addendum by that time, depending on how Parliament was and how court was, that you just couldn't uh, go about at all at first night. So, whew, it would be a marriage, but it really would be um, like a conspiring is, and I would have to say this is kind of a per se, but what I'm seeing is a joint of a pose, of a juxtapose of a getting it done. And everything lately has been on the precedence and on the rationale of getting it done throughout these deep dives. So, what is getting it done? It really is the deed of whatever it was. And a deed was a piece of paper to the dirty act of getting it DONE. But unfortunately, it'd always be a DON. So when you see the dragon, it is Tigerius at Fort Knight, at Fort Noth, at Fort None of all. That when you see the cobra, that is the venomous strike. So when the venomous strike happened with Prima Noctra, and we go to like William Wallace, and we talk about Scotland, and we talk about being a Highlander, that you can't even do. You just can't even do. So when I actually go through everything, you just couldn't even do it. That's all they would hear at night. At night, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it at all. So when you see the tarantula of a snook about, of a snake about, of a sneak about, it was the whale. It was the elephant in the room that would come through, and they would just see a piece of bread. And that was enough for them to go through the whole county, through the whole area. So when I actually see King Arthur, and then I also see William Wallace come through, that I just can't even make it up through mediumship, clairvoyance. that you see it come through. And he's saying that, with this movie translating this movie that happened with Braveheart, that they actually would do a formidable review, and it would be a council, it would be a talk, and it always came down to some sort of simple crime to impedance that they knew was a root of cause of knee, and that is spelled NEATH, which is a form of an intoxicating old drug like a cranberry tree, something really old of a mix. So when you see raccoon come through, it was surely a trash panda of, Guardians of the Galaxy that you couldn't even get through. So when I see the frog, that formidable review is a taste of the Amazon of the dart. And then when we go right through, do you see how like mediumship is through these deep dives? It's just absolutely foreknown. So when I say foreknown, it really is something of nothing to be done. The frog in this card literally shows a derogatory term of kittens and toads, of all of it in an attic to be done. And that is where they would go get their gun. And that is actually something really nasty. The shark in reverse, I don't even want to go there at all. But let's go to the tarot and see what else it has to do with King Arthur and the Sword and the Stone, because I feel like it's really relevant to today. All righty. So I say this. There was they couldn't even get it out the day it happened. There was a divorce. There was a divorce. Jesus Christ. Couldn't even do it. The Two of Wands says this was foresight. This was foresight. You couldn't even do it. The Five of Pentacles was a loss for King Arthur. The Five of Cups goes alleviation from disappointment. But this was like a racking of your brain that you couldn't get through. With the Five of Swords, you must do through. This is a bamboozlement that came to him. Now it is a little bit of a block up, but I do see an obscurity where it came with a pause of hidden motives, this kind of a download of a picking up, of a walking about. And I see a gentleman walking down a hallway, and I see that's a vision of the round table, but I see the sword in the back with a missing letter. So when I see the Knight of Cups, there was a rush of emotions of an offering, but there's something of an unrest. And I do see civil, almost like a civil court, what we would see today of a reticence rescue, which is the Four of Pentacles. But in reality, the Ten of Swords in reverse goes, you couldn't even alleviate what was true. It was 1,200 stone missing. He just showed me 1,200 stone missing. That's probably equivalent to a multi-million dollars missing. It was an absolute mystery. And when they saw the sword on the table, it had a dent review in it. And when the dent review came in, it was known greed, because the sun actually says happiness towards it. But in reality, the Nine of Cups in reverse goes, no, 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 no contentment whatsoever. Now, their word for like certain crimes out there, like prostitution, was a riff, and petty theft was an if, a diff. And then a misdemeanor would be a gita. absolute dictatorship. And you have to understand that if they could do a through and through and an all in all and a going in, as what we know it today, as far as affiliate terms of a go in, that's highly illegal. It's highly assaulting to the person that is hostage like to the victim, that you can't even believe how nasty some of these guys were and how amped they are sitting just straight so. So when I see this, there was no skilled work when they found the sword with dents in it, and it was a brand new knight, which meant no war, had never been out. He literally saw this imprisonment. What did you do to your gear? That's what I would have said as a general. What would you do with your gear? What did you do? Ending. What type of ending? It was a giveaway. So, but I see them as they sit in court and having this review, this military review, all about. I do see this owl come in like we saw in the cartoon, the Archimedes, this wise owl with this wizard. So when I see this dishonor, did we really have high priestesses back then? Yes, we did. We had wizards and warlocks and all of it. It really just sits in their gifts and their soul and their ability after something has happened. So when I actually see this and they're working their magic and they're actually trying to do a draw out and they're trying to do, I see elixir, I do see a Ten of Wands that you can't even do this. So when I see the alleviation of the struggle of the uphill, he goes, it was drug induced. Drug induced. Absolute passionate. I do see a travel. I do see a coin. I see an old coin, like a pirating coin. It's very elaborate. I do see this woman like in a dance, very passionate after that meeting about the sword, drawing out more about the sword and the song. You couldn't even get a gaff. A gaff was someone who could literally flex and do a draw out. So all these natural movements would just sit here and just do this and back and forth and back and forth. It really wasn't top secret. So when it goes to the Five of Wands, you say, is this true? Was this set in? There's no struggle. Why are they easily coming into court when we went about the town looking? So I do see a want of almost at that time like a cease and desist. I do see them looking through the animals, but there's something about water, river. And I don't know why I hear a river runs through it. I don't understand why I'm hearing River Phoenix either. But the Three of Swords goes, cry, just cry. It's coming right through on a heart past. That chariot propels so fast, confirmed. All of a sudden, all of them had the words, confirmed, I got the job. I'm part of the Knights. So when you actually go through and the Knights of Sword say it, you just couldn't even do at a hot stop paste. Toothpaste. That was how it was. They would see film on their teeth and they would know that they were doing a do. So when you have like tartar on your teeth, and it's actually seen in World War II a lot, it was basically curse night. And that's all you need to know. It was for money, absolute money. All right, let's go to the runes. So when I see this, it was faded because it was stone. I do someone skilled with work. It was someone skilled with work. Birch, Barkana, birth. It was a new beginning. It was something new. That's why they couldn't understand it whatsoever. So when they went to harvest, which was Hera, that you couldn't collect enough through whatsoever. That the wealth actually came in from gifting, even then, that the estate comes through and says, you just couldn't even the heritage. It was a mixed review. So as King Arthur and his army come through, and he would have rather had said army, it really would come through on a way of known. But it because it was a mixed review, it was people gifting each other. They couldn't understand where and when. So as far as living goes, they made their money actually looking at stones. Uh, Definitely study a geology because there was something with the residue of the sword that they couldn't see. That the strength of this uh, study was so hard. He was obsessive with it. And when I see this, which is a nadis, but really a gifting, he kept saying night, it's night, and everyone would just drive nuts. Wunho, it really means there was a type of joy with a breakthrough, and I do see an amethyst, but I also see like a green jasper, but more of an agate. The defense of this, though, was so hard pressed. You just couldn't even cry enough about it. Because when I say this in the phrase, they would actually phrase like a marionette puppet and it would ash everything. They would torch it. So when I actually do see this gift of actually going through these towns like we have heard and documenting history and through the movies, that they would trash everything, that you just couldn't even do it at all. So when you actually go about it in a way unknown to be renowned and it flowed through well like uh flour and it looked like a lot of things and all of a sudden they would just sit there and just watch everyone go, really, 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 because you couldn't even get a stroke of luck on a wheel. Even the wheel, the water mills would stop and they couldn't get anything done because they had to see the flow of water. Was it backflow and all of it? Always understand that maybe you couldn't have put a degree on these individuals on education, but they understood physics and science and other things on how it should be on daily life. So when I see Degas, the harsh reality of military to militant to militia to law enforcement of all of it was such a harsh cutout during the day that torching something at night, and that could be a metaphor that actually gave ulcers, reflux. And that was the true crossroads that I see, a true Hebo Gabo, which is a pagan like curse of a draw out. That was the true trolling that I saw with Appalachia of a keep it going, keep it going. So when I actually see the havoc in this, you couldn't even have power whatsoever. So let's actually go to uh, the Tarot of Sacred Kingdoms and see what else has to be drawn out about King Arthur. Okay, it was illusion, it was delusion at times. When I see the Six of Pentacles, it was a retractable deal that had happened. I do see with the Empress in reverse, it actually was energy of female magic that came through, but it wasn't female. that had done it. I do see some sort of like type of troll. I'm seeing a garden, I see a tree, I see a river. The Knight of Pentacles, I see in reverse, was the halt stop to the Ten of Cups around a family. But this family, it was contentment. The Page of Wands says what actually happened because it usually was fiery everywhere. They were so disruptive by looking at everything as going through the town about this sword. It caused weakness everywhere. I mean, they just showed me, they went right through everyone right now. So when I see the Four of Pentacles, there was no securement, no securement in anyone or anything. And that's what started a new journey. I see the dogs, I see the horses, I do see 15, I do see three carriages, I do see uh, almost up to 15 dogs also on a match out, one goat, and that's all. And when they did it, it was 15 miles. Like this, the number 15 really comes out. The Wheel of Fortune, it shows that there was this stroke of luck, but it was a continuum, a continuance, almost like a requiem. So with the Three of Cups in reverse, requiem would mean it would be a continuance on of a type of crime, and that's something that legal and judicial do not like because even in incarceration, if it's a requiem and they have to pull it all out again, it is such a dig. It's so nasty. So, so nasty. So the Three of Cups in reverse, it usually is a contentment order. It usually is a celebration. It usually is a get together. It usually is something really high celebratory, but it could be a group or a crew of people. And I see a separation of a boast. So when I see the Queen of Swords, there was a cutout, there was logic, there was a lot of I want to say the word tranquility, but in reality, when I see the Queen of Swords, this was someone who was really skilled in logic with military and law enforcement to contracts, where they could read between the lines. And when I see the reading between the lines that you just couldn't even see enough, where it actually made divorces, but it really wasn't divorces. Like they were like stuck together, where they actually separated out all of conundrum, fornun, forum, fornornum, fornornum, and Gaelic is basically a nasty. In other words, it is to say, it's a type of prostitution that's so derogatory, it makes regular prostitution look honorable. So when you see the Two of Cups in reverse, you just have to say, marriage annulled. The Eight of Swords goes, this was like a discovery. These stories are such a discovery of heinous that actually incited wars. Incited wars. Oh, it's such a boil down that they couldn't take it anymore. The Eight of Swords in reverse. That was a go about order. A straight go about order. The King of Swords says, law enforcement and military and contracts with legal was so astounded on how well that conundrum for the sword and the stone with King Arthur came out that you actually had to say that them smoking was a clue. So when I actually say mugwar and mugwort, to marijuana to the current date, being myself as a visiting nurse out in the community, if I hear certain things like monk and skunk and other stuff, but if I hear mugwort, I want to say that's not mugwort, that's mugwar, that's something else. So the Five of Swords goes, don't even go there. vision of Five of Swords in reverse. I see the goat, and when you go to milk the goat and take care of the goat, it bucks you. The Sun in reverse, absolutely terrible, terrible reviews all day long. They couldn't do anything, these guys. They're so used to actually living in law enforcement and military that they couldn't live about daily life. They had to be like among everyone to learn it all. So when I actually see the Four of Cups in reverse, the offering was so discontented to actually eat just a little bit of bread and cheese and be fulfilled because they were used to living lavish. It really was a go a day, a GAE, which is just go get your munitions and just go hunting. And like, you can't go hunting because it was a decree. You can't go hunting. Even their military couldn't even do anything if they lived about. All right, let's go to the Literary Witches Oracle. Okay. So when I actually do this visions, they would have dreams and visions all day, all night. They couldn't even see it at all. Trickery, absolute trickery all day long. But I hear DAE, DAE, and I see them doing this and this with their chainmail and the armor to the point where they said, "We just become one. We just become one." That was the story. It really was lost in the dark. Unfortunately, I had to say, as I see it as a psychic, like these 15 knights and other military from King Arthur actually were lost soldiers. Lost. It was a type of schooling that you couldn't understand. That was harsh, a reality of what was the future to come for them. I don't see it as the current day, but it was nasty, absolutely nasty whatsoever. So when I see marriages and I see them being trained with law enforcement and military, these individuals who were sent out on a whole hunt, but they couldn't find anything. It was still mystery about the sword that had dents in it all of a sudden. All right, let's go to the poker cards. I mean, as I said, I just can't even believe that guy did that. Queen of Hearts. That's true, Sarah. That was intent. That was motive and intent to just do it. The Ace of Clubs says no. No, when you stick a fork in it and you stick a bite in it and you actually stick the stick onto the stone and say, cry because you'll have four babies and one will be none. You actually have to say that the Six of Hearts goes, I can tell why a rebellion would happen at all in the villages because all of a sudden it was made of people who couldn't contend with high and mighty, with court, that upon a look per se, that this four of diamonds was a stick together of a cut it through. The eight of diamonds was a crew to the two of diamonds saying a few, a through, a do, a boo, a goo, a moo, a shoot. That literally means that they would use ways creatively to find a fingerprint of an imprint on something. The nine of clubs goes, just don't even do it at all. Just don't even do it at all. They merged. They got married. The two of clubs goes, you can't see it coming whatsoever. Whatsoever. To the ten of hearts saying, this club is new. This is a new club. You can't even see it coming. The nine of diamonds says, when they cut through at night, you can't do anything. So, like I had seen, like there's a lot with day shift in today's day to where we were talking with King Arthur, like there was something about the day, the daylight hours, that at night it would cut through, and then the next day it would play through. It was something of a conundrum. I just couldn't even make this up. So as I see the wolf, I see the bear, I see an owl, and I see the moth. And there was something of a missing through. And I see the THREW, the through, that the Eight of Spades says, upon a look of a couple, they said, I already know what to do. And that was the demise of King Arthur by that point. At that point, there was some sort of criminal activity that was going on with him that people were missing or lost or left behind. Let's go to the White Sage Tarot. All right, Three of Cups. It would be during a meal. The Ten of Wands, the alleviation of the difficulty was at a meal. I don't know why I'm saying it as Meel. The Eight of Swords. There was a definite dumb to drum. I do see the fife. The Ten of Pentacles was a loss of inheritance of all, of a steal through, Steale, to the sun, where you couldn't even see it coming. Absolute unhappiness to justice. Absolute justice. The Hermit, though, in place in line, says, there's something about this. You couldn't even do it. The Page of Cups goes, no, there's something of a young offer, though. And that's the conversations that would be at the table in their own way to cause a pause. I do see like energy hard in the room press where he would slow his words right down to the ground and fall asleep because he was intoxicated to take away an offer. It was a bad young offer, really bad young offer. Now, with that being said, when I see the Seven of Pentacles, that was skilled work. That's where I see um a wizard come in. And when I see the wizard, I actually see the owl. I do see Archimedes. And I do see Arthur as a young boy and what he could do. And he truly was a trickster. Truly was a trickster. Oh Lord. Here we go. So let's look at the Akashic Tarot because that took a twist, unbeknownst. The Akashic Library. Burnt records. I do see that same relative and relevant to a degree. I do see one room of a fire, of a burnt fire, of an opinion difference of two worlds. When I see Archangel Michael, I actually see it in a way known where you couldn't get it known at all. There was no contending at all. I hear peasant off the beaten path like Cain, the light of the world. It was a shutout. It was an out. It was a go out. It was something of seen. It was something of a new and of a do. This whole idea of this crescent moon gives me Larry. And when I get Larry, it literally means that there is some sort of magic about, and I hear stay by. So we'll address that another day about King Arthur because I feel like it leads into another story, and that's where the ascent is. This is where the top is. This is all it's going about. All you need to know is that there's something about King Arthur that is just unannounced. ANOST. So when we actually do this, you actually do a do. And when we do a do, you just can't even do a boo. So, as I see King Arthur in his younger years, he was well trained in magic and spells and curses and hexes. He grew up with a wizard. I do see an owl. I do some see of a sign that some criminals use as animals and colors and numbers that are pretty heinous at times. That still do, but really it's very opaque to oblique to oblivion of a way of a nature. So when you actually look at it that way, it actually scares even a goodbye of an adieu. So when you actually go about it in a way unknown, you have to say, how did he get askew? Even to like I see like kebab on a stick to sitting at the realm. And then as I know it as today is realm bit higher than a kite. Than mites in your hair to being in it. And I was like, it's just wizardry. It really just straight wizardry that he did this. But I do see something of an nastiness. So I do see it linked more of an Arthur of a stone. I do see the wolf. I do see something else coming through. Something known of a go through. But let's like end this with the Starseed Oracle. And we'll look through the crystal quartz for an ending. All right. It says, embrace your awareness and face your true north. This is something of a criminal saying that criminals like love embracing themselves as their awareness and their oddness to the oddities, to the bizarre behaviors of obscurity. That is absolutely a true fallacy of a true nature of all of it. So when I actually see this and it's learning how to be human in the world, but not of it, it really was this acceptance that we still see today that these behaviors, patterns of behaviors are highly accepted and in accordance of the law, but that they cannot do anything but explain that it is true due to an act that they trust the wave that they come in. So this was timeliness that King Arthur came through. I do see a type of love that should not be spoken of, but I see more animal. I see more animal. I hate to say a little bit of bestiality, but when I say my will to thy will, it wasn't a type of animal cruelty that is known. I do see, I don't know why the word demographic comes out. I do see all of it, but that's where we end right now. So with that being said, all I have to say is it was like something like a humming and a buzzing in his ear that he could hear and he would actually do something very odd. And it was a type of codependency and a boundary with him at times. So with that being said, we're going to end this because it will lead into something of a current date and time that I'm seeing as a psychic that we will understand further about King Arthur, about the sword and the stone, about Owl and Archimedes and the wizard. I hear when you go about and know on a way unknown to be renowned that you can't get a gone. And when I see a gone, I see a setting, I see everything calm about and a play about, and that history is repeating itself. But really, it's just like put in to things that shouldn't be there with energy work. And when I see LEMET, that is a type of energy work that I have to know as a magician for legal reasons of when to execute something out in magic so it doesn't kick back to me. That it really has to do with a health reason. And if I see anyone coughing or a type of like nasal drainage, that I just can't even do magic for them because it will kick back to me and probably 45 other people. And that's all you need to know is that there was some pretty nastiness as far as this going. So with that being said, that's all I have to do, and that's all I have to say. And if you have any questions or concerns, go ahead and leave a comment or send me an email, and we'll talk to you soon.